Hello, dear students, my friends, and to all the viewers. I'm Dr. Santosh Patil, Professor of General and Minimal Access Surgery. Today, I'll be discussing a topic on scars. Scars, it's very important topic because whenever a wound heals, it heals with a scar formation. So, any surgeon who has operated a case would expect the scar to be a healthy and thin linear scar. There are certain peculiarities of a normal scar. In my previous class, I have discussed about the phases of wound healing, and the last phase of wound healing is the maturation phase. In the maturation phase, the wound heals mainly by the contraction and the process of remodeling, where the excess collagen is reduced, and because of the contraction, the scar contracts and becomes thin. So when this phase occurs normally, and the scar usually forms, which is initially pink, hard, raised, and often itchy. Later, the scar becomes more dense and thicker. That is mainly because of the collagen, which becomes more mature and it becomes more denser. Scar becomes almost acellular during this phase. So the scar matures over a period of a year or two. 2 years the scar totally matures. Even after 2 years, the 100% tensile strength is not achieved. Not more than, like, it is not more than 60 to 80%. That is the 60-80% is the maximum strength a scar takes, even compared to its previous normal tissue. So when the scar is abnormal, when this process of healing is interrupted, then we get a what we call as abnormal scars. There are three different types of abnormal scars. One is the atrophic scar, then there is a hypertrophic scar, and last is the keloids. The first is the atrophic scar. The name itself indicates the scar is totally atrophic, not grown properly. So the scar is very pale and flat and stretched. Here you can make out there is a gap between the two approximated edges, and the scar which is formed is very supple and very soft. On evaluation, usually these scars occur on the back and areas where there is maximum tension, usually the joint areas where there is unstable scar is formed. The scar is so thinned out, it get torn away even with just mild trivial trauma. The best treatment for this type of scar is by just excising the scar, resuturing the area. The second is the hypertrophic scar, where there is excessive scar tissue formation. In respect to the original incision or the wound, the scar always remains within the boundary of the wound. That is very, very important, in contrast to the keloid, where the scar tissue always stretches beyond the normal, beyond the original incision or the wound. There are multiple causes which are lead to hypertrophic scar. One, mainly because of the prolonged inflammatory phase of wound healing, where the fibroblasts are appears in the late phase, and maximum collagen deposition usually starts taking place in the later phase of inflammatory process. Whenever there is inflammatory process, the debris removing itself takes a prolonged phase, and during that time the fibroblast deposition is usually delayed. That is the one reason. And usually there is an unfavorable scar sighting that is also seen in few patients, and few patients have been seen with excessive overexpression of transforming growth factor beta, and also patients have been seen with increased levels of insulin like growth factor. So this is a picture where you can see there is a thick, ugly looking scar, what we call as a hypertrophic scar. If you do a pathology or put a scar tissue under the slide, you're going to see there is parallel orientation of the collagen fibers. These collagen bundles are flatter, are more randomly placed, and are more of a wavy pattern. The thickness of the epidermis is increased with absence of any retail ridges. Additionally, the pathology you're going to see is higher T lymphocyte and Langerhans cell contents, also large number of mast cells with associated fibrocyte activity. So history wise, if you see, usually the development of these scars usually starts within 4 weeks of after trauma, and the scar is characteristically which is above the skin level. On evaluation, the scar is tender, pruritic, and cause a burning sensation. The risk of epithelialization is longer if the scar takes more than 21 days to form. The third scar is the keloid. I will be discussing the hypertrophic scar and the keloids, their etiology and certain features. The treatment I'll be discussing in common for easy understanding, as well as if you write a short notes or a long question is asked on these topics, it will be easy for you students to write the treatment aspect. Keloid is again a disease where there is excessive scar tissue formation, and in contrast to hypertrophic scar, the keloid always goes beyond the original incision or the wound, often associated with elevated levels of growth factor, and usually seen in patients or races with who have high or deeply pigmented skin. These diseases have also genetic predilection, that is some certain autosomal dominant with incomplete penetration and variable expression has been seen in few of the patients. This disease or the keloid can occur even with a mild trivial trauma in patients who usually come under these categories. Either they should be highly pigmented skin, genetic predilection. All these people who have certain risk factors or thought to be having this disease usually develop very suddenly because of one mild trauma. Usually occurs 3 months to years after the initial insult. So these are the certain picture. Usually a keloid very commonly seen on the sternum. So what is the pathology that is happening when you put a keloid tissue under the slide? You're going to see there is thickness of the epidermis with absence of free ridges, and the cellular, that is the collagen fibers, are usually there is hypocellular thick and wavy collagen fibers which are placed in the random orientation. Synthesize collagen at the rate 20 times greater than that of a normal tissue healing process. So there is also an increased or overexpression of transforming growth factor beta 1 and beta 2 with vascular endothelial growth factor receptors as well as plasminogen activator inhibitor 1. There is increased expression of platelet derived growth factor receptors as well, with upregulated anti-apoptotic gene expression. So there are certain features of the keloid, that is the size may range from few millimeters to large, or it can be a pedunculated lesion also. Consistency wise, they are soft to rubbery or sometimes hard in consistency. There may be associated pain, pruritus and hyperparesthesia at the site of the keloid. It always projects above the skin level, but it rarely extends to the subcutaneous, means it is only at the skin level but never penetrates into the subcutaneous or the underlying tissues. Higher incidence are again usually seen on the, as I told, earlobe, deltoid and sternal area, pre-sternal and back region as well. Coming to the treatment, the treatment is, there are certain principles that needs to be followed whenever treating with hypertrophic scar or the keloid. Important thing is the restoration of the function. Very important, especially the joints which are associated with these diseases, and patient should have relief of symptoms. So whenever you are addressing a patient, the pain that is associated or the itching that is associated with the disease, so patient should have some relief of symptoms. And more important, when you're treating, make sure the disease usually does not recur back after a definitive treatment has been given. That is, prevention of recurrence is very important to address to this disease. So there are certain treatments that are available in the form of topical application. When you apply locally over the scars, they act locally with different mechanism. They are called topical application. These are available in the form of silicone sheets. The local radiation exposure can be helped in treating these patients. Pressure bandages, very important. Pressure bandages, especially the best results are seen for the hypertrophic scars. And retinoids, local application of retinoids also has been used for few patients. Then coming to the next is intralesional. When you are local application, then you can plan for a intralesional injection of corticosteroids can be used, or interferon can be used, gamma interferon can be used, or local application of 5-fluorouracil and bleomycin and mitomycin, which are the chemotherapeutic drugs, can be used for some patients. And surgery is the last resort, usually planned for treatment, which is a part of the treatment. So I'll be discussing in detail about these treatments. Silicone sheets are best, which are painless and usually applied 24 hours a day, are usually given up to 3 months. The main function of this is they increase hydration of the skin and decrease capillary activity. By this, the inflammation, erythema decreases, as well as the collagen deposition also decreases. There will be no further addition of the collagen, means there is no fresh scar tissue formation, and it prevents rebound hypertrophy. So silicone sheets are best utilized for the hypertrophic scars. These are the best treatments that are available for the children and other who cannot tolerate pain. So the next treatment is the radiation. Radiation usually destroys the fibroblasts. Usually we see in keloids the fibrocytes are active. This helps in destroying the fibroblasts as well. The radiation used dosage is 1500 to 2000 rads that appear to be effective. But the disadvantage is it has got very high recurrence rate when it is used in alone. When used in combination with other treatments, the benefits are better, but again the recurrence rate is very high comparatively. The side effects are there may be localized hyperpigmentation, pruritus, erythema, paresthesia, pain, and possible secondary malignancy that are associated with radiation. It is best reserved for scars that are resistant to all the different modalities of them. So radiation should be the last preferred modality if at all used. So the next is pressure. Local pressure bandages are seen to be a lot beneficial in patients undergoing treatment for hypertrophy, especially patients of hypertrophic scar using the pressure bandages. They help in aid in the collagen maturation. We saw in the initial slides where the initial the phase of maturation is the one which helps any scar to form a linear or a supple scar. Here this pressure bandage usually helps in the same stage, that is helps in collagen maturation, flatten the scar and improves its thinning and pliability. Also reduces the number of cells by creating local ischemia, decreases tissue metabolism, increases collagenase activity. External compression, especially after burns, can be used. The pressure used is 24 to 30 millimeters of mercury that exceeds the capillary pressure, usually worn for 23 to 24 hours a day. And better if the response is poor, usually means the treatment, if you anticipate there is a hypertrophic scar, you start using the pressure bandages as soon as possible, because if the scar matures and it becomes more harder, then usually that is usually 6 to 12 months they respond poorly to the pressure treatment. The other treatment that are available are local retinoids, but they have got a very high recurrence rate. Both hypertrophic scars and the keloids are treated with retinoids, but the recurrence rate is very bad. Now coming to the intralesional corticosteroid injection. Usually we use corticosteroid injection for keloid treatment, which decreases the fibroblast proliferation, collagen, glycosamine glycosynthase, and same the transforming growth factor beta levels are usually decreased. That is the one reason how it has been acting to reduce the size in keloids. What does it do? Once you give it, the scar or the keloid tissue becomes soft and it flattens, and patient will have lot of symptomatic relief with this injection. And these are the first line of treatment for keloids. Yes, it can be used for hypertrophic scars, but it remains the second line of treatment. And the results are best when the it is combined, means it is combined with the surgical excision. Means a corticosteroid injection alone does not give the 100% treatment. Their best results are usually when the scar tissue reduces in size, the patient can be subjected for surgical excision, and these are given in the form of like every 2 to 3 weeks. There are certain complications when used alone. Usually That is, skin atrophy is one side effect, hypopigmentation, telangiectasia, and the skin, your underlying skin will go into severe ischemia and necrosis, and because of the repeated injection that leads to ulceration. So last treatment is the surgical excision. The surgical excision are planned usually if you are planning for a debulking of the large lesion. Keloids is subjected to high recurrence. Means surgery, if you plan for keloid, the recurrence rate is high, that may be 45 to 50%. So there are newer techniques that are used to decrease this recurrence rate, mainly by the dermal advancing edges and usually use of incision, that is in the skin tension lines. And the third is whenever you close after surgery, it has to be tension free closure. With these techniques, the recurrence rates can be reduced with surgical excision. The surgical excision alone, as I told, is not beneficial or any other modalities. The surgical excision, when it is combined with other modalities, the results have been seen to be superior. That was the detailed discussion about the atrophic, hypertrophic scar and the keloids. Thank you very much. Kindly subscribe my channel for more topics on general surgery and related topics.